Hello and welcome to Travel Babble with Basha. Today I'm going to talk to you about traveling solo on Cunard's Queen Elizabeth. Wow! If you like to cruise and you like luxury, I highly recommend Cunard. I sailed on Cunard recently for my first time. Now, if you've watched my channel, you know that I love to cruise. I've cruised a lot of places. I've traveled a lot of places. And I found a wonderful deal on Cunard that I thought, I'll never find this again. And I want to try them out. Let me tell you some of the goods and the bads as a solo. I'll get into more details on other videos about certain aspects, but this is really going to look at the solo experience. I was on there for 36 days. There were people who were on for different amounts of time. I went from San Francisco to Los Angeles, through the Panama Canal to Fort Lauderdale, then across the ocean to Barcelona, and then another week around the Mediterranean and back to Barcelona. I was on there for 36 days. As a solo, it can be difficult sometimes meeting people. The nice thing on Cunard is they did on sea days had a hosted solo meeting every morning. It was usually around 10:15. I would usually show up a little early, do some work that I wanted to get done, and then the solos would slowly show up. It was hosted. Most of the time it was hosted by a professional dance couple that was on board, male and female, that would put on shows and give dance lessons. But they also did some other duties, and one of them was hosting our solo meetup. There were two different professional dance couples on board at different times when I was there. Both dance couples were very nice to meet. I got to hang out with them. It was really nice being a solo to get to meet some of the crew who work on the ship. So as you're walking around or you're doing something, you get to see them. The professional dance couples, most of the nights, they hosted the ballroom dancing that was going on in the Queen's room. And it was nice to go there and actually see them and know them. So that was a very nice plus. It was also nice because I wanted to dance. I had a knee injury and couldn't dance a lot, but I did want to dance some. Now, they have dance hosts on board. When I was on there for all but the last week, there were 4 dance hosts. One was a husband and wife couple, and then there were 2 men who were also on there. These dance hosts are there to help. They go to the dance lessons most days. They'll dance with, whether it's a single person or it's maybe a couple where one of the partners doesn't like to dance but the other does. So in the evenings when they had the ballroom dancing or whatever dancing they had, the dance hosts would be there. They knew who the solos were because they had come usually at least once to one of our solo meetups to meet some of the people there. But they would ask you to dance. They would take you out, and if you didn't know the dance, or in my case I had an injury, the one dance host knew about the injury, and he would say, you know what, let's just go shuffle around the floor. And we'd stay off to the side a little bit and just shuffle around. If we missed some steps, it was fine. Nobody cared, at least I don't think anybody did. But it was nice having those dance hosts. Now, I noticed during the last 7 days on the Mediterranean cruise, they had left and there were no dance hosts. But there were a few single males there who would ask some of the women to dance. Also, the professional dance couples were available. They generally would not come ask you to dance, but if you asked them and they could, and it wasn't certain times where they needed to be in a certain location, they might dance with you. Now, I didn't see them doing that very often because people didn't know they could ask them. But I danced with both of the men in the different couples. One of them asked me several times to dance because they all knew I loved to waltz. So he came over and asked me to waltz. I waltzed with the other gentleman in the first part of the cruise several times when I asked him to waltz. So I did get to dance even being a solo. Now on port days, the solo hosted meetings do not happen, but sometimes they will put something in the information in the schedule the night before that says there's a meetup. It's usually in a different location and it's not hosted. I showed up one day. There were 2 other ladies there and they had never been to any of the solo meetings, so they didn't know what to expect. I told them that there probably would not be anybody to show up because on port days, most people by the time that meeting was happening were off. The nice thing was those two ladies bonded and I saw them hanging out together throughout the cruise. As a solo, I did have my own room and it was very nice. I spent a lot of time. I had a balcony. I spent time out there. One of the things that was nice on the solo cruises also is every Sunday they had a solo luncheon. You did have to call before a certain time and make a reservation. I did not go because I don't usually eat that early, but the people who went said they had a pretty good gathering and they really had a good time. Some of our solos on our trip had asked if they could also do a dinner. At one time, a gentleman got together a group and made reservations for them to go to dinner, but then the ship also put together a few dinners in the evening. Again, you had to make reservations and go. I went one time with another solo to dinner, and it was fine. We shared a table with two other couples. But this is what I found about traveling solo on Cunard. The two other couples spent most of their time talking to each other and ignored me and the other solo lady. The other solo lady ended up leaving dinner early, which left me sitting there a bit by myself. I would try to join in the conversation, but it didn't happen. Now, that could be because of those particular couples, but what I found as a solo on Cunard, it's mostly couples. There's not even many families. One of the bridge higher-ups had his family on board, and I saw maybe a few others at times, but there were really very few families on board. Probably less than 5 or 10, and most of those, if they had younger children under 18 with them, they were teenagers. So it was the majority of couples. I would see solos from my group and run into them, and sometimes in the ballroom dancing at night we might sit together, we might talk, but other places around the ship, most of the couples did not want to talk to solos. I'm not sure if that's just Cunard's atmosphere, if that's from the people and where they were from. The majority of the people on our cruise were from Europe, and I did find that the people from the U.S. were more likely to talk to me. At night when I went to the show, because I was on there for so long and there were other people who were on there just as long, but at the show I would sit in the same seat most nights. And there was a couple that sat in front of me and then there was a couple that sat across from us. And we all got to know each other and we all talked, we all shared travel stories because all of us travel, so we had that in common. So something like that, as they got to know me, we did talk. But when I'd be out in an elevator or maybe sitting somewhere else, couples really did not interact with solos especially. They didn't interact a lot, I don't think, with each other, but they definitely didn't interact with solos. I'm not sure why that is. I would say if you're going to sail Cunard as a solo, get involved in those solo meetings, the hosted meetings. If you really get to know somebody, maybe the two of you can hang out. I tend to go my own way, so I didn't do that as much, although I have to say I have kept in touch with at least one of the solos from the group that we really got to know each other a bit, and we would see each other around the ship and talk. But if you need other people to talk to you, you can't be by yourself, you always need somebody to talk to you, you're going to feel a little left out in Cunard. And I've heard this from some other people who have sailed who have said it's not solo friendly. I'm not sure that it's not solo friendly. I felt the cruise line was very solo friendly. They went out of their way by having the dance hosts, by having the professional dance couples who met with us on sea days and who supported us and who was willing to dance with us. I also met several of the entertainment crew, the entertainment manager, the entertainment director. They were all very open and welcoming to solos. It was really the other passengers who were not as open and welcome. So if you do want to sail Cunard, it's a wonderful experience. I'll have more on that on another video. But I hope you'll give them a try. And just be understanding that you may be spending time by yourself. If you can do that and you like to do that, it's a wonderful place to be. I hope that you will give Cunard, and especially the Queen Elizabeth, because that's the ship I was on, that you will give them a try. So now, go, pack your bags, and go say hello to Queen Elizabeth, the ship.